The text on my phone came in at 5:37 in the morning while I was still half asleep with my cap pressed against the back of my knee. It was from my bank. One line: your account access has been temporarily suspended pending verification of recent authorization changes. I read it 3 times before my brain caught up. Then I sat up, and the cat slid off the bed with a thump, and I opened the banking app. A red banner, ACC Des, Denied. Below it, in smaller letters, contact your branch for assistance. I want to tell you something before I go further. That trust fund had been sitting in my name for 11 years. $520,000. My grandfather had set it up when I was 19, the year I almost dropped out of college because my parents kept borrowing from my work-study checks and forgetting to pay me back. He saw it. He didn't say anything to my mother, his own daughter. But he set up that trust with his lawyer and made sure her name wasn't on it. He told me, the day he handed me the paperwork in his kitchen, "Hazel, this is yours. Don't let anyone talk you out of it. Don't let anyone tell you they need it more than you do. They will try." I was 20 when he died. I'm 36 now. And in 16 years, I had touched that money exactly twice. Once to pay off the last of my student loans, once to put down a deposit on the little brick house on Wren Street where I was sitting that morning with my phone in my hand and my heart trying to climb out of my chest. I called my mother first. That was my first mistake. I'm telling you that up front so you don't have to wonder later why I didn't call the bank. I've spent a lot of months thinking about that call, and the only honest answer I have is that some part of me still believed my mother was my mother. Some part of me still wanted to hear her say, "Oh, sweetheart, that's terrible. Let me help you figure this out." She picked up on the second ring, wide awake. That was the first thing that was wrong. My mother does not get up before 7. She has never gotten up before 7 in my entire life. "Hazel," she said. Not honey, not what's wrong. Just my name, flat, the way she used to say it when she was about to tell me I was overreacting. I said, "Mom, my bank account is frozen, the trust account. Do you know anything about this?" There was a pause. Not the pause of someone confused. The pause of someone deciding which version to use. She said, "Your father and I had a long conversation last week with a wealth advisor. We've been worried about you for a while. The stress at the hospital. The breakup with Joel. We thought it was time for us to step in and help you manage things." I remember the exact sensation in my stomach when she said that. It wasn't shock. Shock came later. This was something quieter and older. It was the feeling of every conversation I'd had with her since I was 8 years old. Every time she'd told me I was being dramatic. Every time she'd taken something of mine and called it borrowing. Every time she'd said, "We're a family and family shares." It was the feeling of being seen, finally, for what I was to her, which was a checking account with a personality she had never particularly liked. "What did you do?" I said. Not a question, a demand. I heard my father in the background. He said, "Is that her? Put her on speaker." My mother put me on speaker. My father, in the calm, slow voice he uses when he's pretending to be the reasonable one, said, "Hazel, we did what any responsible parents would do. We got a power of attorney drawn up. There's a doctor's letter on file. You've been struggling, and we are within our rights as your next of kin to act on your behalf when you're not in a position to make sound financial decisions. This is for your protection." I want you to hear what I heard. I want you to hear how reasonable he sounded. My father is a retired insurance adjuster. He spent 40 years telling people why their claims were being denied in a voice that made them feel like they were the unreasonable ones. He was using that voice on me now. I said, "What doctor? What doctor signed a letter saying I can't manage my own money?" My mother jumped in. "Sweetheart, you don't need to worry about the details. Let us handle this. You've been so emotional lately. You're not thinking clearly." I had not seen my mother in 8 months. I had not had a phone call with her longer than 4 minutes since Christmas. She did not know whether I was emotional. She did not know what I had for breakfast. She did not know the name of my supervisor at the hospital where I'd been a charge nurse on the cardiac unit for 9 years. I hung up. I did not say goodbye. I hung up and I sat on the edge of my bed in my pajamas and I shook for about 90 seconds. Real shaking, my teeth chattering, and then it stopped and something else moved into the place where the shaking had been, and that something else has not really left me since. I called the bank. I asked for the branch manager. I told the person who answered that I would be there at 9 when the doors opened and I expected him to be available to me. I said the words fraud and elder financial exploitation, and this is my account and I have not authorized any changes. The woman on the line, bless her, said, "Ma'am, I'm flagging your account right now for the manager's review. Please bring 2 forms of ID." I did not call my parents back. I did not text them. I got in the shower. I washed my hair. I put on the navy blazer I wear to disciplinary meetings at work. I put on the small gold earrings my grandfather gave me for my college graduation. I drove to the bank. I want to tell you about the drive. The drive was when I started to understand. I was on Route 9, passing the diner where my father used to take me on Saturday mornings when I was a kid, and I started running the timeline. The breakup with Joel was 11 months ago. I had mentioned it to my mother once, briefly, in February. I had not been struggling. I had been working. I had been buying my own groceries and paying my own mortgage and showing up to 12-hour shifts and coming home and feeding my cat. The stress at the hospital was my normal life. It was the life she had never bothered to ask about. And then I thought about my sister. My sister is 41. She has 2 kids and a husband who has been between things for about 6 years. She lives in a 4-bedroom house my parents helped them buy, and she drives a car my parents helped them finance, and her children go to a private school whose tuition shows up mysteriously every August in a check from my mother's account. My sister has called me twice in the last year, once to ask if I would be at Easter, once to ask if I would consider co-signing on something for my niece's tutoring. I had said no to the cosign, politely, in a text. In April, I was halfway to the bank when I understood that my sister had been the one to suggest it, not the cosign. The trust, the we need to step in. I knew it the way you know a smell before you see what's burning. The bank parking lot was almost empty. I got there at 8:47. I sat in my car and I did the thing my grandfather had taught me to do before I walked into anything important, which was to take 3 slow breaths and decide in advance what I was not going to do. I was not going to cry. I was not going to apologize. I was not going to use the word misunderstanding. I was not going to call my parents from the parking lot to give them one last chance. The doors unlocked at 9. I walked in. The manager was a man in his 50s named Mr. Holbrook. He had a soft handshake and a careful face. He took me into a glass-walled office and closed the door and asked me to sit down, and then he turned his monitor around so I could see it. There was a document on the screen, a power of attorney, dated 4 days earlier. My signature at the bottom. I have never seen that signature before in my life. It was close. It was a decent attempt, but the H was wrong. My H has a little hook at the top, a thing I started doing when I was 13, because I thought it looked sophisticated. The H on that document was a plain H, the H of someone who had practiced from a photograph of my signature on a holiday card or a thank you note. I said, "I didn't sign that." Mr. Holbrook said, "I believe you. I want to walk you through what we're looking at." He scrolled. There was a physician's letter attached. The letter was dated 3 days earlier. It stated that I had been evaluated and was experiencing acute mental health distress consistent with an inability to manage personal financial affairs at this time. It recommended that a family member be granted temporary authority over my accounts. It was signed by a Dr. Ainsley Pruitt, listed as a psychiatrist in private practice in a town about 2 hours north of where I live. I have never been to a psychiatrist. I have never been to that town. I have never heard the name Ainsley Pruitt. "There's a phone number on the letter," Mr. Holbrook said. "We called it yesterday afternoon. It went to a voicemail with no name. We left a message. No one returned the call." He scrolled again. He showed me the fax header. The letter had been faxed in from a number with a 717 area code. He had already looked up the number. It was a UPS store, specifically a UPS store in the same town as a supposed doctor. I felt my hands go cold, not from fear, from something else, from the precision of it. They had thought about this. They had driven somewhere. They had used a fax machine at a strip mall. "There's one more thing," Mr. Holbrook said. He pulled up the metadata on the document itself. He turned the monitor a little so I could see it more clearly. This PDF was created on a home printer scanner, The device is registered. The owner's name shows up here in the embedded metadata. I looked at the name on the screen. It was my sister's husband. I want to tell you what I felt when I saw that name. I felt a kind of quiet, like a room going still after a clock stops ticking. I had not realized, until that moment, how much sound my own family had been making in my head, my whole life. The expectations, the little corrections, the way my mother would say my name with that downward turn, the way my father would explain my own feelings to me, the way my sister would smile with her teeth, but not her eyes. All of it had been a constant low hum, and the hum had just stopped, and in the quiet I could finally hear myself think. Mr. Holbrook said, "Hazel, I need to ask you something. Do you want to file a fraud claim today? Because if you do, this becomes a criminal matter. Forgery on a federally insured banking instrument is a felony. Submitting a fraudulent medical document is another one. If your parents knowingly participated, they are looking at conspiracy. Do you understand what I'm saying?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Take a minute. This is family. I have to ask you to be sure," I said. "Mr. Holbrook, my grandfather set up this account so that my mother could not touch it. He told me the day he gave it to me that she would try. He died 16 years ago, and he was right today. I am sure." He nodded once. He picked up the phone on his desk and he asked someone named Theo to bring in the fraud forms and to call the non-emergency police line for the report. While we waited, my phone started buzzing. My mother. My father. My mother again. A text from my sister that said, "Mom is worried about you. Can you call her back? This is getting out of hand." I turned the phone face down on the desk. The police officer who came was a woman about my age, with a long brown ponytail and a notebook she actually wrote in. Her name was Officer Reyes. She listened to me for 30 minutes without interrupting. She looked at the document. She looked at the metadata. She looked at the fax header. She asked Mr. Holbrook if the bank would release the documents to her with a signed release from me, and I signed the release, and she made copies. Then she asked me a question I will remember the rest of my life. She said, "Ma'am, are your parents likely to come to the bank today?" I thought about it. I thought about the call I had not made to them. I thought about my mother sitting at her kitchen table in her pink robe waiting for me to call back. I thought about my father pacing. I thought about my sister, who had texted twice now. I said, if they think the plan is failing, yes, they will come. They will come to perform. Officer Reyes said, "Perform?" I said, "My mother will arrive and she will cry, and she will tell you I have always been unstable. She will say I am having a breakdown. She will produce evidence. She will be very, very convincing. I am telling you this now so that when she does it, you remember I told you in advance." Officer Reyes looked at me for a long moment. Then she said, "Thank you. That's helpful. I'm going to stay in the building." We did not have to wait long. At 10:40, my mother walked into the bank. She was wearing a cream-colored sweater and her good earrings, and the expression of a woman who had been called in to handle a delicate situation. My father was 2 steps behind her. My sister was not with them, which told me everything I needed to know about the division of labor in their little operation. My mother walked up to the teller. I could hear her through the glass. She said in her gentle voice, "I'm here about my daughter. She has been having a very difficult time, and we are trying to help her manage some financial matters. I believe she may be here today, and she's not herself." The teller, a young woman with a name tag that said Camille, said, "Ma'am, can you give me a moment, please?" Camille walked calmly into the back. Officer Reyes walked calmly into the back. Officer Reyes walked calmly out of the back. My mother saw Officer Reyes and her face did a thing. It was a thing I had seen my whole life and never had a name for. It was the half-second adjustment between one performance and the next. Confusion, hurt, concern. The whole sequence deployed. "Officer," my mother said, "thank goodness. My daughter is here, isn't she? She's been in a real crisis. We have documentation from her doctor. Her father and I have power of attorney. We're just trying to help her." Officer Reyes said, "Ma'am, can I see your identification, please?" My mother handed it over. My father stepped up beside her, hand on her lower back, the picture of a worried husband. Officer Reyes said, Ma'am, sir, I need to ask you both to come with me to the back. We have some questions about a document filed with this bank earlier this week. My father said, Of course. We have nothing to hide. We are her parents. They walked past the glass office where I was sitting. My mother saw me. Her eyes moved over my face the way you might glance at a magazine in a waiting room. She did not stop. She did not say my name. My father did not look at me at all. I want to tell you, plainly, that this was the moment my old life ended. Not the morning text. Not the call. This, my mother walking past me in a bank lobby on a Wednesday morning and not breaking stride. What happened in the back room, I learned later in pieces. Officer Reyes asked my parents about the power of attorney. My mother said I had signed it in her kitchen. Officer Reyes asked when. My mother gave a date. Officer Reyes asked my father to confirm the date independently. He gave a date 2 days different. Officer Reyes asked about the physician's letter. My mother said the doctor was a family friend who had spoken with me on the phone. Officer Reyes asked for the doctor's address. My mother gave the name of a town she had clearly memorized but not visited. Officer Reyes asked my father to spell the doctor's name. He spelled it differently than my mother had pronounced it. Officer Reyes asked them finally who had prepared the document. My mother said she had. My father said her son-in-law had helped. They looked at each other. Officer Reyes wrote it down. About 40 minutes in, my brother-in-law called my mother's cell. Officer Reyes did not let her answer it. Officer Reyes did note the time of the call and the contact name on the screen, which was saved under his first initial and last name, which matched the registered owner of the printer that had generated the forged document. That was when my parents were placed under arrest. I did not watch it happen. I was in the manager's office with Mr. Holbrook, signing a stack of forms, freezing every account I had with that bank and reopening them under new numbers with new security questions and a verbal password my parents could not possibly know because it referred to something my grandfather had said to me the week before he died. I heard the click of handcuffs from the lobby. I heard my mother say, in a voice I had never heard her use, "Are you serious right now?" I did not get up. I did not look. I signed the next form. By 2 o'clock that afternoon, my sister and my brother-in-law had been picked up at their house. By 4, charges had been filed: forgery, conspiracy to commit fraud, aggravated identity theft, submission of falsified medical records, which turned out to be its own separate felony in our state, and a serious one. My brother-in-law was additionally charged with creating the forged documents since the metadata trail led directly to his home office. The Dr. Ainsley Pruitt did not exist. My sister had invented the name. She had used a free online template. She had paid a man on a freelancing site $40 to create a letterhead. He turned over the records to Officer Reyes within a day. The trial took 11 months. My mother got 6 years. My father got 5. My sister got 4. My brother-in-law got 7 because he had also, it turned out, used the same home printer to forge 2 other documents for 2 other people in the years leading up to this, including a lease modification and a forged signature on a car title. The judge was not gentle. He used the phrase predatory exploitation of family trust in his sentencing remarks, and he ordered full restitution, plus interest, plus my legal fees. I went to the sentencing. I sat in the 3rd row in a dark green dress my grandmother would have approved of. My mother turned around once and looked at me. I held her eyes. I did not nod. I did not smile. I did not blink. She turned back around. My sister's children are with my brother-in-law's parents now, who have been kind to me through all of it. They sent me a Christmas card. They wrote in small, careful handwriting, "We are so sorry. We did not know. Please know we are raising them to know better." I keep that card in the drawer with my grandfather's letter. The trust fund is intact. I moved it to a different institution with different protections, and I added language that requires 3-factor verification for any change of any kind, ever. I put my best friend, a woman I have known since nursing school, as the only emergency contact on the account. She is not family by blood. She is family by 16 years of showing up. I want to tell you what I learned. Not because I think my story is rare. I have heard from women since this happened who have lived versions of this their whole lives and never had a banker who believed them or an officer who waited in the back. I have heard from women whose parents got away with it. I have heard from women who are still being told they are too emotional to know what was done to them. What I learned is this: when someone tells you with a soft voice that they are doing something terrible for your own good, they are telling you who they are. Believe them the first time, not the fifth, not the 15th, the first. What I learned is that family first is sometimes a sentence used by people who want to take something from you and need you to be quiet while they do it. Real family does not require your silence. Real family does not require your silence. Real family does not need your password. Real family does not forge your signature in a UPS store in a town you have never been to. What I learned is that my grandfather knew. He knew 16 years before it happened. He set up the trust the way he did because he had watched my mother my whole life, and he understood her in a way I had refused to. He gave me the money, and he gave me the warning, and I almost missed the warning because I wanted so badly for her to be the mother I had invented. I am 37 now. I still live in the little brick house on Wren Street. The cat is older. My friend from nursing school comes over on Sundays, and we drink coffee on the back porch, and we do not talk about my parents. Mostly, but sometimes we do. And that is allowed too. I keep one photograph of my mother in a box in the closet. It is from when I was 4. She is holding me on a beach somewhere. She is smiling at the camera, and I am smiling at her. I keep it because I want to remember that there was a version of her, somewhere at some point, who looked at me like that. I do not know if that version was real. I do not need to know. The trust is mine. The house is mine. My name is mine, with the little hook on the H that nobody else has ever quite been able to copy. And the next time someone tells me, in a soft voice, that they need to step in for my own good, I will know what to do. Because I have done it once already, on a Wednesday morning, in a glass-walled office, with a manager who believed me, and an officer who believed me, and an officer who waited in the back. I will pick up the phone and I will call the bank. I think about that Wednesday morning more often than I should, not because I miss anyone. I think about it because it taught me, in one long, unbroken day, how cause and effect actually work inside a family. My grandfather saw my mother clearly 16 years before she ever touched that account. He set up the trust the way he did because he understood something I refused to understand for most of my adult life. People show you who they are in small, repeatable ways, year after year, and those small things are not separate from the big things. They are practice for the big things. Every time my mother called me dramatic, every time she borrowed without paying back, every time my sister smiled with only her mouth, they were rehearsing. The morning my account froze was not the beginning of anything. It was the performance they had been preparing for my whole life. I had to learn that I was not the cause of what they did. I used to believe, somewhere underneath everything, that if I had been a better daughter, a softer daughter, a less ambitious daughter, they would not have hurt me. That is the lie people like my mother teach you in your bones. The truth is simpler and harder. They did what they did because of who they are, not because of who I am. The cause was their character. The effect was prison. That sentence is the cleanest thing I know. What I want to say to anyone listening, especially the women my age who are still trying to be daughters to people who only ever wanted accountants, is this: your decency is not a leash you have to wear forever. You can be a kind person and still call the police. You can love someone and still send them to a courtroom. Kindness without a spine is just compliance with a nicer face on it. Mr. Holbrook believed me because I walked in with my evidence already organized in my head. Officer Reyes waited in the back because I told her out loud what my mother would do before my mother arrived to do it. Camille flagged the account at the teller window because I had already filed paperwork that gave her permission to. None of that was luck. That was 3 slow breaths in a parking lot and a decision made in advance not to apologize for protecting what was mine. If you were sitting somewhere reading this and you are afraid of what your family might do, please hear me. Get the documentation. Learn the words. Write down the dates. Trust the quiet voice inside you that has been trying to tell you something for years. The voice is not unstable. The voice is the only part of you they never managed to teach, not to speak. My grandfather has been gone for 17 years now, and I still talk to him sometimes on the back porch on Sunday mornings. I tell him the trust is safe. I tell him I finally listened. I tell him my name still has the little hook on the H, and nobody has ever quite been able to copy it, and now they never will.